Joining us from MLB Network as well as Fox Sports, the Baseball Hall of Famer himself, John Smoltz. How you doing, John?
I'm doing good. October 7th, I probably won't be doing good at all.
Why is that?
Michigan State.
Oh, gosh, now, John. Come on.
Yeah, that's normally I look forward to it. Now it's queasy stomach.
Well, I mean, you never know. You never know.
No. We know. It's going to be a nice little spurt you guys are going to have. And
what do you mean by spurt? What do you mean by spurt?
Well, up until last year, it was
Yes.
a 7-year run for the Spartans. I think that's going to be gone for a while.
Well, I think it was a 6-year run that was aided into a 7th due to a special team snafu that wouldn't happen 999 times out of the other 1,000 snaps.
Correct.
But the final score is what it is. That's it. We could put a pin in that and revisit that in October.
Yeah, absolutely.
What did you think if the Dodgers don't make the World Series? Is this season a complete failure?
Well,
John?
So much that people don't understand. I mean, we went 14 straight years and made the World Series, 5 times?
Mm-hmm.
Had the best record a lot of those years and didn't qualify for the World Series because there's so many contributing factors. I understand the game and how it operates in the postseason with TV and travel, but think about it, 162 games in 180 days. The best team is going to have the best record because of the depth of that short 18-day off days, right? I mean, you got to face one. You got to have a 5-man rotation, and you can't limp in like you can't limp in with 2.5 starters. Although last year the Dodgers proved that wrong by having 632 pitching changes or whatever it was. My point is, when you get to the postseason, you've got so many off days. And teams that can get in that don't have the best record but maybe have 2 hot starters can give you fits, can make it very difficult. So to answer the question fairly, they have the most pressure on them now that the Cubs won last year. They have not been to the World Series in 30 years. So the year they're having, the pressure for them to get to the World Series is greater than anybody else. Just because the record is what it is, I don't think it's as easy to say it's a failure. They are the most balanced, and they have the most depth. But a matchup problem is right there in the making if they get into a scenario that I just mentioned. You get 2 hot pitchers, and they find themselves on the outside looking in just because of the format in the postseason.
So which is the team they want to see least then?
I would think the Nationals, a healthy Nationals team. This was a really, really an interesting series last year. No Strasburg. Epic 5th game, and depending on how you look at it, if you like 7 pitchers in 1 inning, which happened, I think, in the 7th inning. It took an hour and change. But I think the Nationals possess an offense that is so good, an offense that could get better with Turner and Worth and all the left-handed pitching that the Dodgers have, although be it great. Darvish makes a difference, of course. That helps mix up the lefties that are in that rotation. But your matchups in the National League are going to be great no matter who it is because those teams are far and away better than the rest of the league, whereas the American League has a more bunched-in kind of wild card scenario, and maybe those teams aren't as deep as the front 3. So the matchups are going to be intriguing. They're going to be great. The Dodgers are going to get the wild card team, and that is going to be what it is. And then we move on from there.
Well, I mean, the wild card team could be Arizona, right? And see Zach Greinke sitting right there. That's a pitcher that you could see twice. And the Rockies are always an intriguing team. On
that note,
mm-hmm.
Zach Greinke more than likely is going to pitch that wild card game, so that only gets him 1 game in the series.
Interesting.
Best of 5.
That's true.
I think that's when I used to always get kind of ridiculed for my philosophy. If you're a wild card team and you really are thinking about winning the World Series, why would you pitch your best pitcher in the wild card game? And I used to get crushed for this because the reality is, do you want to win 1 game or do you want to win the best chance to win an 11? And my argument is, it's a condensed form anyways. It's Johnny bullpen, and your starter gives you 5 innings, you turn over to your pen. I know you got to win to get in. I get that. But the year that the Cardinals won the whole thing, they saved Carpenter and didn't pitch him the last game of the year, and banked on us beating Houston. We did. They set up Carpenter for the rest of the playoffs. They won the World Series because they had their best pitcher available more often.
Well, then let's get deeper in the weeds on this, because the best part about Darvish being acquired by the Dodgers, John, is, in my opinion, the fact that they could throw Kershaw on regular rest during long series, as opposed to his previous appearances. I just saw earlier this month that he's thrown more starts in the postseason on short rest than regular rest, which is amazing. And Bumgarner's never thrown on short rest in a start, obviously.
Right.
So what is your philosophy on putting your best pitcher? Do you throw your best pitcher in game 1 or game 3? So you would have game 1 and 5 on regular rest, or as opposed to 3 and 7 on regular rest?
Yeah, that's always the game 5, and that's what I was talking about. Why the matchups? You're going to have the teams that don't have as great a chance to move on. They're going to be pressed to have their pitchers pitch on short rest. So if you've got good depth and you trust your starters to win 11 games, Kershaw on regular rest is way better than her kind of heroic kind of 3. See, that's what the Indians ran into last year.
Yep.
Everyone talked about how great their bullpen was, and it was. But you can't use your bullpen like that year in and year out. And Kluber had to pitch on 3 games rest every single day and did a great job until the final time he had to do it. He just didn't have his stuff. So you have to have 4. If you have got 4 really good pitchers, you set yourself up for the best scenario to win 11 games. If you're just looking to knock somebody off and keep advancing, you need 2 hot pitchers, and 2 hot pitchers can beat you in a best-of-5 series. And then, of course, back in the day, it used to be game 1 starter would go 1, 4, and 7. And the game has changed where we don't see that, with the exceptions of like a Clayton Kershaw did last year.
John Smoltz, a few more minutes here with him on the Rich Eisen Show. It seems like I've been asking this every time you've been on this show, John, during the season, about the Cubs. I think they're officially playing with fire here. Now we're in the middle of August, and they've got two teams that they have to deal with, and the Pirates are still on the periphery here. Do you think the Cubs are making the playoffs when it's all said and done?
Ultimately, I still do. I think the fact that this thing got tightened up, the thing that concerns me is the moves they've made have not worked out in the pen. Their pen has been their issue. We were worried about their starters as a whole for a while. That's been corrected. Hendricks is back. Arrieta's back. So they got to figure out what's happening to some of these guys to get to Davis. I mean, Carl Edwards Jr. has been lights out until recently. And same thing, Wilson has come over and not been as. So to me, that's their issue. They're allowing teams to function in a bullpen that Joe Madden was pretty confident in. And if you even think about it, going into last year, he lost confidence in some guys down the stretch and had to win that series with basically starters coming out of the pen, and then Chapman, of course, pitching all those innings. So it is the race, the only race in the National League, and some teams look like they've got some flaws but are hanging in there and could win that division. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, I still believe that when you look around in that clubhouse, they got to feel like, hey, despite we're the defending champions, we're still better. We just got to play a little better.
Well, I mean, I know you're not on Twitter. Last night, John Lackey was trending, and I didn't see why. And I thought, oh, my God, did he get hurt? That would be horrible for the Cubs. And then I realized he was trending because he stole a base at age 38. And I noticed, John, you have 3 career stolen bases.
Yeah.
What gives there? What gives there?
I broke into the league as the official pinch runner for Russ Nixon, believe it or not. And I used to pinch run for our catchers. I had to emergency pinch run earlier than he told me to in San Diego. I did not have my spikes on. Mm-hmm. The video is priceless. I couldn't find my helmet. I was panicking because I had turf shoes on and milk duds in my back pocket. Not a good scenario for pinch running when Benito Santiago is behind the plate.
Okay.
I had a small lead because I was worried about being picked off. I was worried about traction. I got thrown out at second, sliding in on my milk duds, which ruined my day. And I got yelled at by my manager for not having my spikes on. So although that was fun to actually pinch run, and it wasn't later in my career as fun, I was on third base in Game 6 of the World Series with Otis Nixon at the plate and Timlin in the mound, and the third base coach at the time, Williams, said to me, he's going to bunt. You've got to beat the throw to home because it doesn't look like he's going to be able to swing off of Timlin. And I'm telling you, that whole thought of getting thrown out or running over the catcher in Game 6, so they can have it. Yes, I got a couple stolen bases, got one in the playoffs, and sneaky speed when I was younger, but then straight lead foot after that.
2 caught stealings too, John. 2 caught stealings.
Yeah, one of them was cheap. I slid. I was safe. I got past the bag, and they tagged me. I argued that one. I didn't win, but. Yeah.
So, but it's very rare to hear the excuse, I had milk duds in my pocket. That's a good one, by the way.
That was an embarrassing moment in San Diego.
Yankees Red Sox this weekend, and then we see the American League wild card completely wide open. This is truly a lot of fun. Who do you think is in fact standing in that wild card result?
It is a lot of fun, and my dream scenario, I don't think that's what baseball wants. I want like a 4-way playoff. I want to see what happens with a 4-way playoff to get down to a 2-team, to get down to 1.
Oh, my gosh.
And this is the closest year we've ever had to that possibly happening. I said this a month and a half ago. I just had this feeling about the Rangers. They were 6 or 7 back. It didn't look good. They traded away Darvish. They traded away some pieces, Luke Roy. I think, man, if they got a really good chance. And yes, there's 5 teams ahead of them, but they're 2 games back. Everyone's got a chance, basically. So whoever gets hot at the right time is going to be huge. But I think the big thing when you're sitting in this position, and you're 2 games back and 5 in front of you, you start feeling in the clubhouse, I think we're better than this team. I think we're better than that team. You got to have some confidence in your club. Where's your edge? And some of these teams have lost their edge because of via trades and the fact that they haven't performed well in whether they're bullpen or one-run games. So it's wide open. I kind of like it, and I think it's going to be for fun baseball down the stretch. Even if these teams aren't necessarily – I don't like to use the word flawed, but maybe not running on all their engines. I think there's a reality that sits there and goes, we get in, we could get dangerous, who knows? We've seen it with the Giants. We've seen it with one hot pitcher. So that scenario plays out in the American League. That's where all the eyes are.
Great chatting with you, John. Great chatting with you. Really enjoyed it, and we'll talk down the line before the playoffs, hopefully.
You got it. Thanks for having me.
You got it. That's John Smoltz, MLB Network, Fox Sports.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on radio stations across the country and audience.
If you like that video, be sure to download our app. Don't have any memory on your phone? Let's start to delete some of those slow-mo videos you have. And you know which ones I'm talking about.